Welcome to the Success Flow Podcast, where our mission is simple: to be better each day and relay our findings with other relentless humans defining success for themselves. If that sounds like you, let's begin. All right, back at it.
What's up, dude?
The background.
Yeah,
the upgrades are there.
I've ordered these. These are on the Amazon cart. After our first couple with the bare green wall, I had to switch it out, add some flair. Got a nice little light. So if you're watching this video, you can see one of these lights, like a lightsaber. And you can change colors on it. It's freaking awesome.
You are the podcast Jedi now.
Apparently.
Are you noticing the acoustics?
Yeah,
I think
it's good.
I think they might work.
So these don't do anything. Just to be transparent, it's just plastic. But it looks good. I still have my Oppo Flow mug and my mindset. Mindset is everything fish up there. So I got my little shelf, which keeps me happy. But the background looks good. It's like going all in on it now, right? Like we're dedicated.
Quarter of the office is a studio. I love it. I love it.
Exactly. Well, and by the way, where's your hat? You're like, we've done a pod without a hat before, but usually when it's just us, you usually have a backwards hat. Now you're showing off your locks there. It looks great.
Well, we are hat guys. Definitely like that when we're squeezing these in the margin hours, but figured I'd have to show up, looking sharp today given the topic.
Looking dapper in your collar.
On that note, are you
feeling
a little bit more legit now that I guess the listeners wouldn't really know, but we're recording this after a couple episodes are out and in motion, and we've gotten some feedback. Are you feeling like more legit showing up to this episode?
Dude, 100%. When we released that first one, the pilot, it was like, oh shit, this is happening. This is real. And what was really cool about it is once we got it on Spotify and Apple and everywhere podcast was, which, we're figuring this out. It really wasn't that hard to do. But once we got it all launched out there, we, sent a few texts, let people know, put it up on social media. And if we got a ton of feedback, like positive feedback, people were loving it. And it was a really cool feeling for sure. And it was almost like, all right, here we go, man. Let's roll. Like just even more energy than what we already had going into it. Was really neat. How did you feel? What did you think after it was released?
I can't lie. I was nervous to hit the send button, or for you to hit the send button, I guess. But it was silly afterward. Such great feedback. The folks that I work with, and even clients through my my employer. It was good. It just makes me want to keep showing up, even if those few nuggets that they responded with. That's exactly what we're trying to do, right? They can take that away. If we can deliver anything to these great listeners, we will.
Yeah, it was cool getting some feedback. One of them I think was, dude, I just applied for my dream job. Thank you for sharing the bamboo story. That resonated well, and that was a really cool way to finish that first one. I remember that, but. Nothing like waiting till the last minute, though. We said we were getting it out by the end of May. We got that first one out May 31st, which is, we held ourselves accountable and we did it.
That topic for today is going to tie in there, right? Nothing like the procrastination of getting it on the last day of May.
Yeah.
But it's out, and that topic for today is discipline and consistency.
Ooh,
so people might be
like that one.
A little hesitant, might be a trigger word for some folks. We bring up those words a lot, but I think deep diving in to these topics and some of the things that we found over our careers so far, careers and lives, could be beneficial for the group. So kicking us off, and I'm curious, in your mind, how does Stephen Harris show up from a discipline and consistency perspective?
That's a good question. I think if you would have asked me a year ago, I would call it, actually probably less than a year ago, I would call it chaotic organization. Meaning I was all over the place, but on the surface, it looked like I had everything dialed in. I knew where everything was. I knew what I wanted to do, but it was chaos, right? Like in my mind, it was just going a million miles a minute. I couldn't really hone in on that. And it wasn't until, a lot more recently where this year where it's just like, okay, the habits, the changes, the little incremental changes that I've decided to make in my life because I know where it is I want to go. I know what my purpose is now. I've defined that. And how do I make those incremental changes and what does that look like? And so I think as a family man and also a business owner, it comes down, number one, I think it starts with health. You have to have good health. You got to feel right. Your body's got to feel right. Your mind's got to be right. And so that is a big, big challenge, being an athlete in high school and then not really doing too much outside of just general run around and whatever. It was difficult to kind of get into that healthy mindset, and you go through spurts and whatever. But I think having the discipline to say, hey, you know what? I'm going to make this change. And for me, it started with dry January this year. And it was like, I'm going to cut out booze for 30 days and I'm just going to do dry January.
Which I used to always get crap for. It's your birthday every year.
It is. It's my birthday month. And I used to give you a bunch of crap. I'm like, why are you doing this over my birthday, man? The old Steven was party animal. And now this year I said, you know what? I'm going to do dry January. You were way ahead of my time. But it totally was a mindset reset, if you will, like a health reset for me. I ended up parlaying that into dry February. So in a full 60 days to start the year, which, it's not like we were heavy alcoholics or anything like that, but it's still just not having one drink and just focusing on what you want to accomplish and having that laser focused. Like, who knew, right? When you stop putting that crap in your body all the time and you're clear headed, you're laser focused. And so it was that kicked off the discipline for me. And having that mindset of like, okay, we're building something cool, we're creating, we have the freedom to do really well. So let's continue down this path and focus on our health. And, about it now in, gym workouts and more routine, and really focused in on that morning routine. And you've always been a big morning guy and morning routine. So, and honestly, you've been an inspiration for me. I see you and what you do and how you set aside that time for yourself, which is always a challenge, and what that can turn into when you put that focus in. So I think starting with the morning routine and discipline and focusing on what that looks like for you has been a huge, eye-opening experience for me to implement that into my life.
Yeah, I'm with you in the sense that this has been a ebbs and flows progress. And I think it's just a part of getting older and becoming a man or an adult, and wanting to have 100% of our energy reserves as we show up. And I'd say from a work perspective, going back, all the way through Workiva to Master Tax, and then school, even back in the day, Midwesterners, I think it's a pride thing and an identity thing. We love the hard work piece. And my family was, it was definitely a brand for our family. Like, we're going to be the hardest workers in the room, which that was always the case. And I was tied to being that hard worker. But to your point on the health and say relationship side, because there's discipline in maintaining relationships too. That was a portion that I don't think I had until my 30s. I would hit the gym consistently, but what was more consistent was, hitting the bars and partying, and honestly just trying to kind of numb back in the day the lack of my sense of purpose. Even though I was working really hard at the office, the weekends were more consistently escaping that. So when I met Paula, it was interesting because at that point, hitting the gym consistently, reading all the time, working late, diet-wise during the week, been pretty dialed in from that sense for a long time. And Paula said, "You're so disciplined." And I remember it being really triggering to me, not that she would know this at all, but I was like, I didn't feel that disciplined because everything that I did on the weekends, I thought wiped out everything from the week. So once she said that to me, I think that made me double down on all those other practices. Like, oh, this woman that I care deeply about says I'm disciplined. I need to keep showing up that way, and even more so. So to your note, and what we're doing here with the Success Flow podcast is, I don't think there's anybody that's successful, as we're going to do with our quotes, that doesn't have discipline. It's a non-negotiable. You have to figure out, what your goal is and stick to it.
Yeah, I think you can achieve success without discipline, but it tends to be short term. And it's like the habits and the things that you build, and how do you keep it up, right? Because you can win the lottery, you can hit a viral video, you can do various things.
Lottery's not success.
No, it's not. But to some people, it might be, right? It might be like a big, massive financial payout, and like, oh shit, like now I'm like, I got all these things. But now you always hear about those lottery winners that then lose it all within a year, right? And so I think that analogy,
it's like 70% or something like that, isn't it? Something
it's massive.
Wild.
Yeah, it's something like that. And so it all comes down to, when you have that discipline, it helps you build those good daily habits. And habits don't happen overnight, right? Like, you already have your habits, you're already who you are. But if you want to make change, it starts with your open mind and your mindset and like, okay, I know what my purpose is. I know where I want to go. What would someone else that is doing the things that I want to do, what would they do in this situation, or how would they act today or tomorrow or whatever, right? And I think most successful people emulate 80% of what they're doing is emulated by someone else. They just put their own 20% spin on it.
Models of excellence.
Exactly.
They're models of excellence. Yeah, absolutely.
Correct. So you just jump in and so like, for instance, going to the gym, right? Like I was not a big gym guy. I'm not, I'll run. I ran half marathons in my 20s and all that kind of stuff, but I wasn't lifting weights or, every now and then I get in spurts, but after 3 weeks, something would happen and then I, would fall off. But now I got a personal trainer. I go twice a week with him. And then I've got my own Sunday workouts. I go 3 days a week, same time, same day of the week, each time, 3 days a week. And now it's becoming who I am. So I made that change. Okay, I know I've already done dry January, dry February, my mindset, my health, and like all the things are going and I'm laser focused. But now I want to feel good, right? Like now I want to get back to being like, feeling like an athlete again. And I want to be healthy for my kids. I want to show my 10-year-old son what a strong father can look like, right? And not, and not being lazy. So it's a lot of that accountability for myself of like how I'm perceived by my family members, even though they love me, but it's my own, I want to do that. So I do this thing with my trainer and I'm 8 weeks in now. And all of a sudden I'm now like thinking, I can't wait to go to the gym again. Like I'm now becoming that person who I always was like, how could you just be that guy that just goes to the gym, just loves it and trains? And now it's not even a workout. I call it training. And so you have that identity shift. So when you open your mind, you have that mindset and it's clear and you make that decision, I'm going to take action and try something, challenge yourself on purpose. And then you start doing it, right? And then you learn from it. And then you do it every single time, the date and time that you set it for, whatever that is, daily, twice a week, whatever, whatever. And then you go and continue that path. And even if you don't want to go, you just continue to go. I know there's been a couple times where I wake up, like, I don't really want to go train today. But I go anyway because my trainer's holding me accountable. At least I think he is. I think he cares. He may not care, but I think he does care. And he might care if I don't show up, right? And so that's accountability, is making sure that I'm there for him, even though he could probably care less if I show up or not. But showing up, like you talk about, now has become my identity in a way and who I want to be. And I think with someone who goes to the gym or someone who's healthy, would they go? Yeah, they probably would. So I'm going to get my ass up and I'm going to go. So I think having that discipline and that mindset shift like really starts changing who you are in a positive direction once you've identified that. And, talking about business stuff, right? With in sales and, starting a business and all that. Now you've been in enterprise sales for almost your entire corporate career. How do you translate discipline into that professional setting to be successful in, enterprise sales world?
Yeah. So and back to your example, you had me thinking on the spot here about how, short-term success can come without discipline maybe. And sure, like in sales, you can have a good lucky run. You can have your product market fit hit off the charts. And as our old leader would say, the bluebirds, just catching them with the net. Those can come through.
Warnica, he would just hold up the net. The bluebirds are coming in.
But what I've seen and what I've heard time and time again is the best salespeople are the disciplined individuals that do two things. They go out and prospect and find new business, keep a full pipeline of customers they're looking to help. And they have incredible discipline on following up and next steps all the way through that sales cycle, right? Mm-hmm. That really is what separates great salespeople from the average or even slightly above average. And so if you're gonna approach this with what I call mastery of craft, not what I call, what I love the idea of sales as a craft. That's what makes a craftsman. And then you get into the nuances of how creative are you when you follow up? How professional are you in your prospecting? And that discipline, it's not fun, right? Like that's the biggest thing is I think most of the time it's boredom that kills people from being disciplined. It's not necessarily even pain. Boredom is pain, but we're running away from that pain and discomfort of doing the minute things, which I think we've heard 1,000 times from like Jordan and Kobe with our boy Tim Grover, is they would just hammer the fundamentals, the boring stuff that none of the other guys wanted to do. Jordan started off with chest passes, didn't he, at the beginning of practice?
Yeah, he was doing all the basic stuff you learn as a kid and just keeping the sword sharp, right? And showing the way. Him and Kobe too. You always hear the stories of how these guys were up and back from the gym by the time those guys were, teammates were waking up. And just having that discipline to get that extra workout in that other people weren't doing. And it was their mindset of, I will outwork anybody, and that's why I'm going to win. No one will outwork me. So it's funny that you say Craftsman. There's this thing called Culture Index. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. We've done it with my team.
Oh yeah,
it's like
the Gento.
Yeah. We did that, the mastermind group. But it's like, and a couple of guys, Ed and Davenport, and those guys have helped me through that and sharing that with my team. And there's profiles, like 16 different profiles you can do, like for assessment stuff. And I'm the Craftsman. And I've taken this test 3 times, and every time I'm the same profile, the Craftsman, which is funny because I was always in sales for so long, and the Craftsman actually kind of shies away from social interaction, which is deep down, when you look at it, this thing kind of nails you. And when you look at it, yeah, I mean, I'm good one-on-one, I'm good in front of large groups of people, but when there's like a big giant group setting, like, I mean, I don't love it, right? And I just like having the creativity of like, just, being involved in doing my thing. But anyway, the Craftsman is like the one that focuses on the details, the operation, and mastering their, whatever it is that they're trying to do. So it's kind of fun.
Well, I think you just kind of played into one of the stereotypes on sales, and we're not going to go down that path this episode. It's not only about sales, but that it's about talking and about how extroverted you are. And it's so much more than that, right? When you're looking at a business case and how you're transforming a portion of a business, that is such a craft, and you have to have so much more knowledge than what your customer or prospect's favorite sports team is or where they like to travel. You have to know their business, and I think that's why yours keeps popping up that way. Even back in the payroll days, you got familiar with what the company did. Sure, every company does payroll, but why does this matter to them and what market or industry they're in, and how can you be a true advocate from a business perspective for your customers?
Yeah, I remember when I was at ADP working in the payroll industry, and then now having Journey being local here. But I learned the ropes and understood the process of payroll and what it took to support small businesses. So when we launched the Phoenix location for Journey, then it was like, okay, natural fit. It was all that sales model. It went from strategy sales to transactional in the industry, and kind of the services we were providing. So even though it was more transactional, it was very relationship driven. And when you were talking about your follow-up, right? And so I coach this with my team all the time, it's never a no. It's always a not yet. And it's your responsibility to make it a not yet. It's only a no if you stop talking to them. If they give you the no, and you always go for the no, it's a Sandler type training aspect, go for the no. When they give it to you, then, okay, put them in the pipeline 6 months later and follow up, because it's always a not yet. And so you have to have a
polite
call to
persistence.
action. Yeah, and you have to have a call to action to every meeting, unless it's a complete wasted meeting. Now, in my business, we're local. There's like thousands and thousands of prospects that we can have for small business payroll. But every single meeting, I never leave without a call to action. And it's either A, a referral, B, I'm interested in using your services, C, a connection to a power partner, CPA, bookkeeper, health broker, whatever, or D, a follow-up plan on how you and I can connect, right? And so you have to leave every single meeting. You have to go into every single one with a purpose, and you have to achieve that purpose. Otherwise, it's just a complete wasted meeting. Get the verbal buy-in and commitment from the other person you're talking to, and then you're allowed to follow up with a phone call, email, text, or whatever, because you just spoke to them about it. You can do that a week later and not feel bad about it.
And that purpose, I would add, isn't about Steven or Journey. That purpose for the call is framed for the customer
and helping
and the
them.
Impact, not product based, outcome based for them.
Right.
Not just what do I want to achieve in this meeting, which I see happen all too much. What do I want, and how can I talk product and features? And that's just not how good business is done. It's not how you're an advocate for the people that you're trying to really make business changes with.
You want to know the best way to stay consistent when you're talking? Doesn't matter if it's business or sales or whatever. What's the number one? Sales 101.
For a podcast.
So yeah, storytelling. You know how to stay consistent is when you are in every conversation telling a story. If you're just doing bullet points, facts, whatever, and you're not entertaining or you're not telling stories of things that will resonate with your customer or the other person you're talking to, you will not develop that. You'll get the sale, you'll get those things, but you won't develop that long lasting that pipeline, that relationship. So hone in on your stories.
That's true. And that's artwork. When you see it done well, it's artwork.
And you're not coming out of nowhere just saying, oh, I've got a story for you. It's just middle of conversation. As someone's talking, you're like, yeah, there's this guy or there's this gal that did something like this or like that. And it relates. And they're like, oh, wow, yeah, no, that's very much the world that I live in. So it puts it back all on them and gets them thinking and how you're bringing value. There's that what's going on in their world. And then they become to know, like, and trust you. But that's consistency, right? And it's building that accountability and learning those types of actions and doing it day in and day out. So that way you're prepared for those, those big appointments or the big meeting that you may have that could potentially create a pivotal moment for you and change the trajectory of your life.
Absolutely. And we got into accountability on another episode. And I feel that, we talked a little bit about tech stack there and whatnot, but the accountability piece, what I described with Paula, and she didn't even know she did it by calling me, saying you're so disciplined. I then had accountability to show up with that identity for her. I think with this podcast or any type of goal that you're trying to set, you and I are, okay, next week or setting those times. This is what you said you wanted. This is the type of person you said you want to be. Like, show me. I'm from the show me state. And you can't let the people down around you, or then you're not taken seriously. And people that are on this version to find success for themselves, when you're building a brand and you are trying to achieve something, you're only as good as your follow through, right? And that accountability, like you've been a great instance for that for me. Junto has been how we're showing up in those groups, and I was curious on your perspective, where some other areas you're getting accountability these days.
Yeah, talking about chaotic organization before, well, now when you force yourself to put something out there and you've got people, doesn't matter if it's 2 people or 200 or 2,000 or 200,000, whatever, millions. When you've got people that you said you were going to do something, and Brewer talks about this, right? His core value, do what you say you're going to do.
Oh, I
love it when he talks about that.
Everyone listens when he gets on that topic.
He does. It's true. And so when I started the newsletter, the storybook, a few months ago, and that was a weekly read. And now I understand that reading something isn't always someone's, they don't take in content that way, but I've got subscribers. I've got hundreds of people and hopefully soon thousands of people that are going to read this thing on a weekly basis, and it holds me accountable. Again, they haven't unsubscribed, so I know they must care. I can see the open rate, so I know that they care. And it goes back to that, I care that they care. They may not actually care, but I think they care. And if I don't show up, they probably would. So it's whether they do or not, I'm holding myself accountable to be there for them and build that community. Number one, it makes sure that I can and maintain and continue being a knowledge seeker. I don't know everything. This is all this stuff that we talk about. Yeah, we talk about life and stories and things, but a lot of it comes from research and experience. And so I have to make sure that I'm continuing to bring valuable content and research, and I have to do that on a weekly basis, as well as reaching out to people who have done something of significance, whatever that perception is, whatever their perception of success is, and I can share, and who's open and willing to share their opportunity stories to help inspire others. So that storybook has helped me become accountable. This podcast now is another way to continue that accountability, and it's just, in my eyes, just be a knowledge seeker. As long as you are seeking knowledge at all times and learning something new, your mind continues to grow and grow and grow, and then ideas start forming, and then you've got to take action on the ones that align.
Absolutely, man. And I thought it would come up before now, because if there's a guy in media right now, or I guess you'd call it media, you familiar with Jocko Willink?
No, who's that?
So he wrote this book. He wrote a different book called Extreme Ownership, which could have been the title of this episode as well, but this book, Discipline Equals Freedom, and you can kind of see his mug there. Like, imagine that guy. He looks like he eats bald eagles for breakfast. Like,
That's
he
so
is.
true.
He
He's a
is
beast.
an animal.
Yeah.
And I think that's my biggest thing is when you say discipline equals freedom, that's the piece that it brings. Like when you're following up and aligned to your mission, and doing the things you say you're going to do, even when you don't feel like it, you're going to feel better. You're going to feel whole, and you're going to show up and continue on that successful path. So I think that's what we're trying to get at for the listeners in this episode. Maybe need a little bit more discipline. If so, reach out to Steven and I. We'll hold you accountable. We're hoping to hold you accountable on this podcast. Man, this wasn't even planned. You
got the energy drink there?
I've got Jocko's Go. That says discipline on it. So maybe that's the thumbnail for this one.
Nice. Subscribe and follow Success Flow Podcast. That's a wrap, dude.